Welcome back with more experience. Between 1963 and 1969, for 7 years in a row, the Beatles at the end of the year put out a Christmas record, exclusively to their fan clubs, the British fan club first and foremost, but also in some edited forms to the American fan club. They sent out flexi discs with Christmas messages. Initially it was just messages that the press agent Tony Barrow scripted for them. We're very thankful and thank you for buying our records. Wish you a Merry Christmas, but that sort of thing. But throughout the years, it wouldn't be the Beatles if they wouldn't progress even with such a task. Throughout the years, these records became more and more, let's say, creative. I think Monty Python even admitted that they were influenced by the Beatles' sense of humor. While I don't think that the Monty Python members were official fan club members, so they probably didn't listen to these fan club exclusive records in the 60s. But this is probably a way to listen to the Beatles having fun in a very cheerful way. And I always loved those records. Here's the box that Beatles Apple put out a couple of years ago. Great box, replicas of the initial flexi discs on vinyl. And here's my ranking of these records. Number 7, my least favorite Beatles fan club message is the last one, 1969. In late 69, when they recorded the last message, they kind of were split up. They hadn't officially announced it yet, but Beatles were no longer. So, of course, they recorded those separately. They were recorded after the last Beatle meeting in September 69, so of course they had to be recorded separately. Probably the most interesting thing about this one is George Harrison's Christmas message. He was heavily involved with Hare Krishna at the time, of course, and his Christmas message is Happy Christmas, 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 happy, happy, which is a pun on the Hare Krishna mantra, which is quite fun. Colored vinyl. My second least favorite one is the one from 1964. You can tell that they were pretty tired at the end of 64. That was probably the most exhausting year in showbiz history for anyone ever. The Beatlemania year. So this was still scripted by Tony Barrow. 63 and 64 were scripted by the press agent. So they're reading from the script, but of course they're the Beatles, so they're making it in a fun way. They don't take the script too serious, but they're a bit tired on that record. Number 5 is the very first Beatle Christmas message from 63. It's a bit of the same like the 64 one, but they're not as tired. They're just reading the script from Tony Barrow, but they're the Beatles. They're very charming in doing that, and they don't take it too serious, which is also quite entertaining. Then the next one is the 1968 one. Like 69, this was done separately because this was done immediately after the White Album sessions, so they needed some time off from each other. There were lots of tensions, of course. Then interesting thing is that we all know of George Harrison's trip to America in late 68 when he hung out with Bob Dylan and the band. So he recorded the ukulele novelty artist Tiny Tim playing Nowhere Man on ukulele in New York. Maybe George's love for ukulele started then, in his later years. George Harrison's favorite instrument probably was the ukulele. Then the next one, so the top 3, I really love those 3. And the first one is 1965. This was the first time when they took over from Tony Barrow. It's like with Rubber Soul that they recorded around that time. They took over the studio and became more creative, more independent. And the same applies for their third Christmas record. Very irreverent, cheeky Beatle humor. And this is the first time when it's not just a Christmas message, a thank you message to the fans, but also there are like skits, like sketches, like they're really doing some funny skits here, and like I said, Monty Python-esque, but before Monty Python even was. Great fun. And one thing is they recorded it in like November 65, so that was around the time when Yesterday was #1 in America. So there are lots of Yesterday parodies on that one, which are quite funny. 67 is my second favorite Beatle Christmas record. Like with the Sgt. Pepper Magic Mystery Tour albums that were recorded around that time, a bit more psychedelic and even more like the 65 one, but even much more far out. And the most important thing about that is the one where they wrote the Christmas song, Christmas Time Is Here Again, that was only released in the 90s on the anthology set. 1 year later, for the White Album, they attempted a medley of Obladi Oblada with Christmas Time Is Here Again, so I think they wanted to have a birthday and a Christmas song on the White Album, but they ditched that version and instead they used the iconic piano intro version of Obladi Oblada without Christmas Time. But this was written in 67 for this record initially, Christmas Time Is Here Again, great, officially unreleased Beatle Christmas song. But by far my favorite Beatle Christmas record is the 66 one. The highlights are the two skits, Porgy the Bear and Falcon Mansions. That's you just have to listen to it on some bootleg if you haven't these kind of Apple official released Christmas records, but maybe you find them on YouTube or on some bootleg. 66 one is very funny. This is some of the funniest Beatle moments that I know of on this great little disc. Yeah, I would say this is almost a masterpiece. It's just, if you like a Beatles song like You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. This is that kind of madness, but just in not in a song format, but as a comedy skit, as I said. So I wish you all Merry Christmas, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and until next time, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Candles, candles, candles.